Commission. Thank you for the volume. Would you all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Place your hand over your heart and repeat after me. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Hirsch?
Here.
Commissioner McNally?
Here.
Commissioner Hoffman?
Here.
Vice Chair Flaherty?
Here.
Chairperson Eisen?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Approval of agenda. Does anyone have any modifications, additions, or subtractions, or can I have a motion to
Move to approve.
Second.
please call the roll?
Commissioner Hirsch?
Yes.
Commissioner McNally?
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman?
Yes.
Vice Chair Flaherty?
Yes.
Chairperson Eisen?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. This next section of our meeting is called public comment. Anyone in the audience or online has 3 minutes to comment on something that is under the purview of the Planning Commission. I will make a note that if any of you are here for item 7A, you might want to wait until that public hearing because there's first going to be a presentation by staff. Secondly, there will be the applicant will be available to the commission for questions, and then after that, it will be open to the public for comment as well. So you might want to hear the presentation first, but you don't have to. But you only get to comment once, one bite at the apple. Having said that, is there anyone in chambers who wishes to come forward to testify on something under the purview of the commission?
Just a question for clarification. Would the public comment time for 7A be after the presentation and run its course then, or is it on a different day? Is today's day?
It all runs sequentially. It will be first a presentation by staff of 7A. Secondly, then the applicant will have a chance to make comments and ask questions of the commission. And then the public, both here in chambers and online, will have a chance to testify, comment, and so on within the 3-minute time period. Anyone in chambers? Seeing none, is there anyone online?
There is no one wishing to speak at this time.
Thank you. I close the public comment section. Consent calendar. We have one item, which are the minutes. Any changes, suggestions, modifications to the minutes? If not, I'll take a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Seeing no discussion, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hirsch?
Yes.
Commissioner McNally?
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman?
Yes.
Vice Chair Flaherty?
Yes.
Chair Eisen?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. We now have our first public of the hearing of the evening, item 7A, location of, and let me bring up my staff report here. All right, I am having technical difficulties. It won't load. May I borrow yours, please? Thank you. Project description. This is a application for a conditional use permit, CUP 25-11, to construct and operate an unmanned, co-located wireless telecommunications facility for T-Mobile on an existing building at 2447 Pacific Coast Highway in Specific Plan Area 8, and to also determine or make a determination if the project is exempt from CEQA. So normally, let's have a presentation, please, first by staff.
Assistant Planner Johnny Chase will make the staff presentation. Hold on a second. We may be still having technical difficulties.
Do you want to just go onto the web so you have access?
Sure.
Okay. I would just go to the web. Do you want to go on the web?
Commissioners, I'd just like to share that we are having some broadcast issues on Zoom. Because the Brown Act and SB 707 require us to be accessible via Zoom, we recommend taking a quick recess to try and resolve those technical issues. If after some staff troubleshooting we can't resolve, we can come back and resume our session.
Fellow commissioners, we need to do this, so let's go ahead and recess. And how long do you ask for? As long as it takes, I guess.
We can start, reasonable would be 5 to 10 minutes. And if we can't resolve it by then, we can go ahead and continue with the regular session.
All right, we are going to take a 10-minute break approximately to see if we can get Zoom working. So please bear with us. In the meantime. I am reconvening the Planning Commission back into formal session. I understand that Zoom is now working, and so let us now please have a staff report on 7A.
Good evening. Good evening. Is this? Hello? Oh, perfect. All right. Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. Tonight we are discussing a request to construct and operate an unmanned, co-located wireless telecommunications facility for T-Mobile on an existing building at 2447 PCH. No. Oh.
Technical difficulties abound this evening.
Okay. Here's a photo of the existing site demonstrating the existing conditions. The project site currently houses an existing wireless facility for AT&T. As reflected in the zoning map, the proposed facility is located at an existing site located on the southwest corner of Pacific Coast Highway and 24th Place, outside of the coastal zone in Specific Plan Area 8. The city's general plan, Plan Hermosa, designates the property as service commercial. The lot size is 15,138 square feet, and the existing building is approximately 24,954 square feet. To the north and south of the project site are both commercially and residentially zoned properties. To the east are commercially zoned properties, and to the west are residentially zoned properties. Per the Hermosa Beach Municipal Code, commercial uses within the specific plan area 8 shall be the same as those permitted in the C3 zone. In the C3 zone, the municipal code requires a conditional use permit for proposed wireless facilities. Additionally, the municipal code establishes regulations for the sitting of wireless facilities and regulates conditions and standards that apply to proposed facilities. The code also requires that the Planning Commission make the finding that the proposed site results in fewer or less severe environmental impact than any feasible alternative site. Local authority to approve or deny a wireless facility application by any state or local government is subject to the limitations established by federal law. Therefore, in addition to the city's local regulatory process for approval of a wireless facility, the Federal Telecommunications Act of 1996, known as the Telecom Act, requires that any decision to deny a request to place, construct, or modify a wireless facility must be supported by substantial evidence contained in written record. Also, under the Telecom Act, a jurisdiction is prohibited from considering the environmental effects of the radio frequency RF emissions, including health effects of the proposed facility, if the wireless facility will operate in compliance with federal regulations. Therefore, if a wireless facility project complies with federal RF emissions regulations, cities may not consider personal belief or other opinions about health effects from RF emissions of the wireless facility as part of its review. There have been previous commission actions for the project site for the existing AT&T wireless facility. Back in September of 2001, the Planning Commission approved a conditional use permit for a wireless facility. Then in November 2019, the Planning Commission approved a conditional use permit amendment for a wireless facility. The proposed antennas of the wireless facility are to be mounted to the facade of the building and screened with a non-reflective screening box to match the texture and color of the existing building and existing wireless facility screenings. The support equipment for the proposed antennas shall be located within the existing walls. The top of the proposed facility is 30 feet, 10 inches, which does not extend past the existing parapet wall of the roof of the structure. The 3 antenna areas consist of 4 panel antennas and 4 radios per sector. The total area of the proposed sectors is approximately 126 square feet. The proposed facility also includes a leased equipment area, which is approximately 152.5 square feet, comprised of 4 equipment cabinets located on the rooftop. The wireless facility proposes to draw power from an existing meter located within the existing electrical room. This meter is powered by Southern California Edison. The applicant submitted photo simulations of the proposed facility included in attachment 4 of the staff report. These simulations reflect the requirements for the screening to be comprised of non-reflective materials, as well as the proposed facility being painted and textured to match the existing building. Additionally, the photo simulations demonstrate that the proposed screening matches the existing facility screening. As part of the application, the applicant submitted a gap identification and coverage solution report, which asserts that the project site was the most feasible location analyzed that would meet the FCC's RF requirements, comply with zoning, meet T-Mobile's coverage goals, and has a willing property owner to permit the facility's development. The building is privately owned and currently houses an existing AT&T wireless facility. The proposed T-Mobile facility would be a co-location of wireless facilities consistent with the municipal code. Preference is given to locations that promote the co-location or shared use of existing wireless facilities, thereby minimizing the need for additional standalone sites or infrastructure. The Hermosa Beach Municipal Code addresses facility height, location, and other issues. Staff have reviewed the proposed wireless facility for compliance with the required municipal code findings. The proposal is compliant with the required conditions, and the required conditions have been incorporated as conditions if the project is approved. I want to highlight condition number 6, that the installation and the operation of the facility shall conform to applicable city building code, zoning code, and electrical code regulations and requirements, as well as state and federal requirements. The proposed resolution will require that the building permits be obtained, including electrical permits, which ensure conformance to regulations. This conditional use permit process conforms with the applicable zoning regulations. Although the city is limited in regulating the placement of wireless facilities due to RF emissions, the applicant has provided an RF emissions report and supplementary report to demonstrate that the RF emissions as they impact the adjacent residential homes and that the facility is FCC compliant. Recognizing that the wireless facility's proximity to adjacent residential homes, condition 8 of the proposed resolution is recommended. This condition pertains to the compliance with applicable laws and RF emissions exposure limits. That the permit does not grant the permittee any right to make any portion of adjacent properties inaccessible to the general public or to hinder future lawful development of adjacent properties, and ensure that the wireless facility will comply with laws applicable to human exposure to RF emissions. Additionally, the condition states that if the community development director finds a good cause to believe that the wireless facility is not in compliance with any laws applicable to human exposure to RF emissions, the director may require the permittee to submit a written report signed by an RF engineer that the installation is operated using the minimum power and that the facility complies with applicable FCC rules and regulations for human exposure to RF emissions. Additionally, a conditional use permit may only be approved or conditionally approved when positive findings can be made for all of the findings pursuant to the municipal code as shown in this slide. Details of the met findings can be found on pages 3 through 5 of the proposed draft resolution. The proposed project is categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act as defined in Section 15303, Class 3 exemption, new construction or conversion of small structures, because the proposal pertains to an addition of less than 600 square feet atop of an existing structure. Class 3 exemptions include the installation of small new equipment and facilities such as proposed wireless antennas. None of the exceptions to the categorical exemptions apply. The project is not located in a particularly sensitive environment as it is developed on a 24,954 square foot commercial building, nor will the project's location impact any environmental resource of hazardous or critical concern. The project will not result in a significant cumulative impact of successive projects of the same type in the same place over time, or have a significant effect on the environment due to unusual circumstances, or damage a scenic highway or scenic resource within a state scenic highway, nor is the location identified in the Hermosa General Plan as a prominent public viewpoint. The site is not located on a hazardous waste site and will not cause a substantial adverse change in significance of a historical resource. The existing property is not a significant landmark in the city, nor is it considered as a potential historic resource. For this Planning Commission hearing, a total of 544 public hearing notices were mailed to the applicant and occupants and property owners within a 500-foot radius on July 9th, 2026. A legal ad was published on July 9th, 2026 in the Easy Reader. Additionally, notice was posted on site a minimum of 10 days in advance of the public hearing in accordance with the municipal code. Staff's recommendation is to adopt a resolution approving a conditional use permit, CUP 25-11, to construct and operate an unmanned co-located wireless telecommunications facility for T-Mobile, consisting of 3 facade-mounted screened sectors with 4 antennas per sector and a 152.5 square foot equipment area located on the roof of an existing building at 2447 Pacific Coast Highway in the specific Plan Area 8, as well as determine that the project is categorically exempt from CEQA. This concludes staff's presentation. We are available for any questions the commission may have. Additionally, the applicant is also present virtually to answer any questions the commission may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Fellow commissioners, any question of staff's presentation?
I do.
Commissioner Flaherty.
Johnny, on one of your items, you illustrate the number of notices and when and where and so on and so forth. Did you have any notices for the employees that work in that building? Obviously, there are notices on the front door.
Correct. There's two on-site notice posters that are located on the front entrance off of Pacific Coast Highway, right, as one located on the side of 24th Place. Towards the
nothing on the interior. Was there a notice sent to the owner or manager of the building?
Commissioner Flaherty, we can confirm, but we do normally notify all property owners and occupants, but I can confirm whether the occupants of that building, if you can give me a little bit of time.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Commissioner Flaherty. Anyone else? Questions of staff? All right, I've been told that the applicant is available virtually. With whom are we speaking?
His name is Jesse.
Jesse, you've now been unmuted.
Yeah, yes, Mr. Gilhorn, this is the chair of the commission. Do you wish to make some opening remarks?
Sure. Thank Mr. Case for the staff report and the presentation. Here to answer any questions from the commissioners or from the public. Just want to reiterate the attempt to locate and design a facility to minimize any impact on the city and meet the needs of the carrier and provide service to the customers, to the T-Mobile customers. I'll leave it at that, but again, appreciate the opportunity to answer any questions from the public or staff.
Commissioners, any questions of Mr. Gilhorn? Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair. A couple questions for the applicant. I am looking at the attachment 7 gap identification and coverage solution report, which mentions that there is a existing site that is going to be shut down at Crenshaw Manhattan Beach Boulevard and replaced here. Can you speak a little bit more into the context of this replacement facility and how it is related to the facility at Crenshaw and Manhattan Beach Boulevard in terms of coverage?
Sure. They would both not be needed. They would both, PCH, then Artesia to the west, to the coastal community to the west of PCH. The intent is to build this project in front of you, get it operational, and then the existing project will be, or the existing facility will be decommissioned. We've been lucky to have the existing facility remain on air as long as it has, as the lease expired earlier 2026. If that answers your question.
I guess I'm just trying to figure out, Crenshaw Manhattan Beach Boulevard is quite a ways away from this site. So are we trying to create service in the same area as that service was?
Yes. The existing sites.
Mr. Gilhorn? Are we having more technical
Just a
difficulties?
couple properties up to a Hadlock up PCH at 2601 PCH. I'm not sure your reference of street intersections.
I'm looking at page 2 of attachment 7 that says existing site LA 02186A is serving the area surrounding Crenshaw Boulevard and Manhattan Beach Boulevard, and shutdown of this site will result in coverage gaps along the suboptimal customer voice and data performance. Is that a typo?
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was a typo, which was noticed maybe by you, I believe, today, and as we provided a correct statement earlier today. So it's should read is serving the surrounding Pacific Coast Highway, Sepulveda Boulevard, and Artesia Boulevard. Is Sepulveda there? No.
Understood. Thanks for the clarification. Another question. In terms of the configuration of the proposed antennas on the existing site, you do have one facing west towards the residence on 24th. Can you explain just the positioning for these antennae, and have you explored placing them at alternate spots on this building?
Yeah, there's a lot of thought and intent on the location of the antennas. They basically propagate and provide coverage in the direction for which they face. So if you and you're an antenna and you look in a certain direction, that's where the antennas will propagate. As you can see from the coverage maps, one of the primary objectives is to the west, the residential community. So that was the primary objective, to obtain coverage in that direction, for which the antennas would need to look in that direction. And I believe anywhere on that west face would work without having conflict with AT&T. So a spot was chosen to be architecturally makes sense. But there would not be an option to have coverage to the west without antennas looking to the west on that western face.
And thank you for my lack of sophistication with antennas, cellular antennas. How does it work if there's already AT&T on the building and T-Mobile? Is it T-Mobile's users can't ping off the AT&T antennas? It's solely for users of the T-Mobile and or AT&T?
Correct.
That's it for my questions. Thank you.
Other questions? Other commissioners have any questions of the applicant?
Not at this time.
Mr. Gilhorn, just a couple of questions myself. The existing facility, you mentioned that the lease expired. Was there an attempt to renew that lease? And if so, did it not work out?
Yes, there was an attempt to renew the lease, and it did work out on a temporary basis, which allowed the facility to remain operational as it is currently.
But you were not successful in extending it on a long-term basis.
Correct.
This is, since we technically and legally cannot get into the weeds on frequency, this is more of an intellectual curiosity on my part than anything official. In looking at the studies that were done that showed that up near the devices themselves, there was 221.8% of the occupational limit at roof level. Down at ground level, 87.3% of the, and there was even a diagram that showed a human and where the 87.7 would occur, or 87.3. Technically, what does that actually mean? If someone is walking by on the sidewalk, are they in danger, or would they have to stand there for 3 years before their brain would be fried? It's just, again, this is just intellectual curiosity.
Yeah, if staff can share that diagram, I can speak. I'm trying to find exactly the one you're looking at. But what I can say is there would be no issue per FCC standards. Threshold for public exposure is below 100%.
I appreciate the answer. I wish there was a more practical, in-depth explanation. Again, if you're standing there for a minute, it probably is not going to hurt. If you stood there for 7 hours, maybe it would. But again, that's another question with regard to safety. This is in attachment 6, radio frequency, page 15, the signing that's going to be placed at various areas. It shows that the 3 areas where the antennas will be it looks like yellow cautionary striping. So is that an actual yellow cautionary striping that's actually painted on the floor where the antennas are?
Those will be behind the antennas with signage. I don't think the striping is required. Again, I'm trying to follow along. If staff can show the page, I can speak
It's
to it.
on, this is the Global Technology Report. It's page 15, and it shows a rooftop schematic view of the location of not only antennas, but then also the various types of signs where they're going to be placed along with this striping.
Is your is that document a 24-page document on your end?
Yeah, it's called Diagram 1, Site Mitigation Plan.
Okay, on page 15, you said?
Yeah, on page 15, attachment 6.
Diagram 1, site mitigation plan. There,
Yeah, page 15. Page 16, there's a more close-up view. It's called Diagram 2, Site Mitigation Plan. I mean, obviously, there's not going to be a lot of folks up there, so this is not a danger to the general public that they're going to be out on the parapet there.
yeah, I think there's the fall hazard is the highest risk there. I'm reviewing it. That will be striped between up until the roof edge.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, 13 feet by 5 feet, correct.
Okay, fellow commissioners, any further questions before I ask for public comment? Commissioner Flaherty.
Yes, sir. We received over the last week numerous letters from citizens. Have you got a chance to read those letters, and do you have any responses to any of those letters?
I'm not, but I'm more than happy to respond to them.
I'm
If you
sorry,
wanna-
did you say you have read them?
I have not read them,
Okay.
but more than happy to respond to them if there is a theme I can address. If it is in regards to emissions, I can only state that it abides by the federal standards.
Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, is there anyone in chambers who would wish to come forward to comment, make observations, make recommendations? You have 3 minutes. Please come forward and first state your name for the record, please.
And I'm sorry, if I can make one more comment, actually, at the appropriate time, whether it be after public comment, I appreciate it.
Yes, we'll allow you to have a closing comment after you've heard public testimony.
Julie?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Hi, my name's Julie Hofer, and I live at 743 24th Place, directly across. Good evening, members of the City Commissioning Council. My name is Julie Hofer. I have lived here for 10 years, and by profession, I'm an auditor for the Department of Energy at Los Alamos National Laboratory. My job is to ensure that when a project moves forward, the data supporting it is accurate, the method is sound, and all risk factors have been properly identified and mitigated. I'm here to testify that the proposal for the T-Mobile facility fails the most basic audit of environmental due diligence. I invite the council to review attachments 10 of the application. These documents contain the RF exposure studies used to justify the CEQA exemption. And from an audit perspective, these studies are fundamentally flawed. They identify and model just 3 properties, and they blatantly exclude my address. This is not a minor oversight, it is a critical data omission. Our building is a 10-unit multifamily complex with 16 residents, and we sit as the exact same 4-story elevation as the proposed antennas. And one of the antennas is actually pointed directly into my bedroom, as well as 2 other of the apartments, just 50 feet away. How can the planning department determine there is no possibility of significant impact, the legal standard for this CEQA exemption, when the most densely populated building in the project's immediate line of sight was excluded from the assessment? As an auditor, I know that if inputs are flawed, the conclusions are invalid. The current record is procedurally and factually deficient. It fails the least intrusive means test by prioritizing a high-impact site and failing to account for the proximity of the most affected residential receptors. Under CEQA, a project this close to a residence is an unusual circumstance that requires a much higher level of scrutiny than a categorical exemption provides. Furthermore, the scientific community remains divided on the long-term non-thermal biological effects of these chronic RF exposures. However, in my work, we manage risks through precaution and not by ignoring potential impacts. I urge the council to take the following actions. Deny the CEQA exemption. The current record is based on incomplete and inaccurate data. Reject the current studies. Do not accept a report that ignores the most densely populated building in the project's path. Direct the applicant to relocate and inform the applicant that they must identify an alternative, more suitable location in the SPA 8 zone or another zone that does not force high-frequency equipment into the bedroom of our residences. The city's responsibility is to ensure the process is transparent and respectful. I ask that you hold the applicant to that. Thank you.
Ms. Hoffer, what is your address?
743 24th Place. It's to the north, right directly across the street from one of the towers, proposed towers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Maytake, Christopher?
Hi, Christopher Matzik, same address, 743 24th Place, apartment number 9. Good evening, members of the Hermosa Beach Planning Commission. My name is Chris Matzik. My wife and I have lived in our home on 24th Place for 11 years. I'm here to formally oppose the CEQA exemption for the proposed T-Mobile facility at 2447 Pacific Coast Highway. The application before you is fundamentally flawed and incomplete in attachments 9 and 10. While the applicant performed RF modeling in the gamma sector for 2457 PCH, they completely ignored 743 24th Place. As said before, this is a multi-unit complex with 10 units and 16 residents. We're 4 stories high and the exact same elevation and direction of the proposed antennas. One of the antennas will be pointed as well directly into our bedroom. The applicant only modeled 2457, which is a commercial building with no one at the same elevation as the antenna. The Planning Commission cannot determine there is no possibility of significant impact when the applicant hasn't even modeled the radiation exposure for the most directly affected building in the gamma sector. We all know that the applicant will state that the Federal Telecommunications Act of 1996 forbids local governments from denying the application based on RF emissions and health effects. But what this does not take into account is the fact that the majority of the population does not trust the same federal government that at one time allowed lead in our gasoline, asbestos in our houses, and DDT in our food. Because of this distrust, it has the effect of lowering property values based on capitalism and market forces, where a house near a cell phone tower is less desirable than intended than when it originally purchased. The homeowner was here first, not the telecom operator. No one wants to willingly live 10 feet away from an RF antenna when given the choice and told to trust your government and become an involuntary subject in a long-term exposure experiment. The home values, especially at 740 and 743 24th Place and nearby, will be most affected when it is disclosed in a home sale. We're not asking for a battle, we're asking for common sense. My request to the Commission is simple. Reject the CEQA exemption. It is factually incomplete because it failed to account and model our home. And second, deny this location. The applicant has not fully demonstrated that this is the least intrusive location. There are numerous other commercial sites in the SPA 8 zone that do not point directly into the residentially zoned bedrooms. The applicant should require to pursue those first. And third, this will lower property values for people that moved into these houses without knowing ahead of time that this was going to happen. On these grounds, I ask that the Commission reject this application and prioritize long-term residents over the convenience of a telecom provider. Thank you.
Thank you. Leslie Button.
Hello, my name is Leslie Button, and I actually am one of the homeowners who just moved into the area 6 months ago, so this feels huge to me that my home value could be less. So I'm here tonight to urge you to deny the conditional permit of the rooftop installation on 2447 Pacific Coast Highway. Under our municipal code, approving a conditional use permit requires positive findings that a project will not adversely affect the character of the zone and is truly necessary for the public welfare. T-Mobile's own submitted gap identification report undermines their case for necessity. First, a net negative public benefit. According to T-Mobile's own population distribution data on page 8 of the report, replacing the site results in a net negative 9 total for local coverage. While they gain 110 commercial in-building connections, they actually lose 119 residential in-building connections. This is not fixing a critical, unserved community crisis. It's a lateral move for corporate convenience. Second, redundant coverage. Hermosa Beach already maintains a robust 5G ultra coverage in cellular infrastructure throughout the city, especially in our area. The tower is unnecessary for general public service and fails the test of site suitability. Third, aesthetic and screening limits. T-Mobile proposes a massive 152 square foot rooftop equipment area, 3 heavy antenna sectors. Even with cosmetic screening boxes, this bulky commercial equipment permanently alters the skyline and visual integrity of specific plan, Area A, failing to meet our local design standards for architectural compatibility. Because T-Mobile's own data proves this project provides zero net gain to our local population while introducing intrusive commercial infrastructure into our neighborhood, I urge the commission this commission cannot legally make the findings required for approval. Furthermore, over 320 neighborhood residents, 290 in our zip code, have signed a petition opposing this project, demonstrating a clear community consensus. They are against it. I urge you to deny CUP 2511. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Button. Jessica Tranny.
Okay. Good evening, commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Jessica Traney, and I live at 740 24th Place, just 4.5 feet from the proposed T-Mobile facility. As you can see from the photo here that he displayed earlier, this is my home, 4.5 feet. That is the proposed box looking directly into my bedroom. In just a few months, my fiance and I will be bringing home our first baby. That's why this proposal isn't just another project to us. It's our home, our family, and our future. I'm sorry. We chose this neighborhood because it's quiet, safe, and family-oriented. We planned our future here, surrounded by family who live just a few houses away. Our concerns are very straightforward. Firstly, we're deeply concerned about placing a wireless facility this close to homes where families live and children grow up. Whether or not the applicant believes the exposure is within regulatory limits, I don't think any parent would choose to have a cell tower just a few feet from their newborn if there were any other reasonable option available. And most importantly, I'd like to leave you with one question. T-Mobile's own coverage map shows excellent service throughout the Hermosa Beach, roughly 99% coverage with strong 5G availability. If residents already have reliable service, why place a new wireless facility in the middle of a residential neighborhood just feet from family homes? I would hope they would look into another area that wouldn't be so close to a family and, like I said, 4.5 feet away from where these proposed towers are. If there's no meaningful coverage problem to solve, why should families bear the burden of the impacts? I respectfully ask that you deny this conditional use permit and protect the character of this neighborhood and the families who chose to call it home. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Burnett?
Hello, my name is Terrell Burnett, and I'm a resident at 629 24th Place. I've already submitted some comments in writing, but what struck me about the presentation that Johnny made was that well, first of all, I would urge you to reject the application, and at the very least, to gather a lot more information, just in the interest of transparency and representing the citizens of our town. I don't feel this is necessary. I think we have sufficient coverage, and I don't think they've demonstrated that there's a clear need for this. I feel that it's unsightly, these boxes that, notice they're not putting it on the facade facing PCH, they're placing it on the other facades for coverage, but still, that's going to be an extremely ugly building and is obviously a wireless structure. Everyone will know it immediately when they see it, and it's going to hurt our property values, really diminish the value for us. And when Johnny said in his report that this would provide less environmental impacts than any feasible alternative site, I would like to know what all those sites are that the city looked at and examined so carefully. I mean, have they looked at other commercial sites? There seem to be plenty of large public parks. For goodness, they could put it on this building or put it on the police station or the fire station, anywhere that wouldn't directly impact a residential neighborhood. And the adverse impact on us is going to be really severe. We don't want it in our neighborhood. We really don't. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burnett. Mr. Wallace?
Now I get to talk to you. My name is Jason Wallace. I live at 629 24th Place in Hermosa. I've been there about 40 years. I have 4 main concerns, and I will follow up with Ms. Burnett. I want you to make sure you comply with Hermosa Code, because Hermosa Code is very specific about the questions you need to determine. The first one is, the Planning Commission has to make a finding that the proposed site results in fewer or less severe environmental impacts than any feasible alternative site. T-Mobile is talking about closing down a site on, what was it? Crenshaw, which is miles and miles away. I have T-Mobile service. I live right down the street from that location. I have great coverage. I think putting something facing west for one of these antennas doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Second, I think the Hermosa Code also requires that the location of these antennas not be attached to the facade. They must be in the center of the roof. Specific Hermosa Code, center of the roof or centermost portion of the roof. They can't be hung off the facade. So I want to make sure you comply with that if you decide to grant this CUP. The third thing, I have not seen an elevation of the building, or the proposed elevation of the building, to verify that these boxes will be in the center of the roof and not hung off. The AT&T box is on the north side of the roof. It's hung off the uppermost portion of the north wall and hangs kind of like a barnacle on the building. I'm not concerned about attractiveness or architectural whatever. I don't want to see these things at all if you're going to approve this CUP. Put them where the code says they should be. And finally, getting to the why we're at 2447, are you relying only on the gap report that T-Mobile put together? If you're relying only on that, then I will say you haven't complied with the code that says the Planning Commission has to review every alternative feasible site within Hermosa. Whole bunch of, why not Skechers? Skechers will put that thing on top of their building in a shot if you'll pay them to do it. So let's make sure we comply with the code. I know I can't talk about health effects, but I can see cancer coming on. But, okay, so I am basically done. I appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Mr. Rockefeller.
Hi, I'm Rocky Rockefeller. I live at 620 24th Place. And I am here to basically encourage you to do a full CEQA review. I'm often asked to do those. They're a pain in the neck, but they're necessary and it's part of the rules. So I feel like we've kind of skirted around it, but we would like to see all the studies that were done around in other buildings. If I was in that building as a tenant, I would be nervous with one of those sitting on my head. So I encourage you to do a full CEQA review and to ask T-Mobile to do a full study of other possible sites. Like Jason said, Crenshaw's a long ways away. There's got to be other options between here and there. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Rockefeller. Anyone else in chambers wish to testify on this topic? Do we have anyone online?
We do.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I apologize for not being there in person. I have 3 young kids. My middle son, it is his birthday today. He's 4, and that is why I'm not there.
And we can hear him in the background. May we have your name, please?
My name is Christina Work.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I apologize for that. I'll try to be brief. I already sent an email with some of my concerns. But as I said, my name is Christina Work. I live 4 houses from the proposed site. My husband and I bought our home as a new build in 2022, specifically to raise our family in this neighborhood, in Hermosa. We moved from Manhattan Beach. Previously, we lived on the East Coast, and we chose Hermosa for a reason. We love the small community. We have 3 children, ages 1, 4, and 12. That is my 1-year-old crying. And this street is where they're growing up. A lot of the neighbors you've heard from already have seen my kids out doing chalk in the street. Walk past the building when we walk to when we walk to Lazy Acres to get our smoothie on Saturdays. My oldest walks to and from school. I want to note that I know we can't talk about some of the safety standards, but these safety standards are from 1996. I don't know if we can really trust that. And I hope that Hermosa understands that not everything federal is personal. I also want to note that I work as a software engineer and an infrastructure engineer. I've specialized in networking for the last 4 years, so I understand the technical side of this application. And I'd still ask the commission to hold it to a high standard. In just 4.5 days, our neighborhood has gathered 342 signatures opposing this location. That should tell you that this isn't just a concern for my family or this street, but it's a broad concern across this community. My question is, what alternative sites or existing structures were considered before choosing this location so close to homes with young families? Again, I'm not going to reiterate what I said in the email. I'm not going to repeat what some of my neighbors and friends have already said, but I want you all as the commission to really think about how you would feel if you were in our position. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else online?
No, sweetie, I was speaking.
Yes. One moment.
Pat, your 3 minutes will begin when you are unmuted.
Hi, I'm here. My name is Patricia Zingheim. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
I'm the owner of the commercial office building at 2401 PCH that is immediately adjacent to the south side of 2447 PCH. I oppose approval of the proposed T-Mobile's Alpha sector adjacent to my property. On page 97 of 193, the GTA report shows that the yellow striping warning is against my property for 14 feet, and the red zone is 5 feet from my property. The balconies for my office suites on the west side are very close to this alpha sector. Also, my property can have a rooftop deck, which my building height allows me to do. And I was planning to do this and can no longer do this if T-Mobile is allowed to add these towers. The GTA report shows the impact of the radiation of T-Mobile on 2447. It does not consider the additive nature of the radiation from AT&T plus T-Mobile on my building. The city should ask T-Mobile to address this because AT&T added more strength since its approval in 2019, and it sounds like it added it in 2021. I recommend that T-Mobile look for another site because they exist in Hermosa Beach, even on PCH. If not, I recommend two alternatives. Show the cumulative impact of both carriers' radiation when T-Mobile is added to AT&T on my property's roof with people standing on it, not lying down, like roofers, painters, HVAC workers, using a 12-foot ladder to repair my elevator shaft, or disallow the South Alpha sector. The city must set guidelines to start addressing how to ensure adjacent property owners get wireless companies to do mitigation measures to reduce adjacent owners' liability. And number 8 on page 27, the report states, this permit is not granting the permittee any rights to make any portion of the adjacent properties inaccessible to the general public or hinder future lawful development of adjacent properties as a mitigation measure to ensure the wireless facility will comply with laws applicable to human exposure to RF emissions, absent agreement from the adjacent landowner. I do not give permission unless it can be shown otherwise. It will prevent me from building my rooftop deck in addition to increasing my liability and decreasing my property value. I also recommend that the action on this resolution be postponed until T-Mobile follows Federal Telecommunications Act of 1996, which the city quotes in section C on page 25. That condition of approval 8 requires the applicant to modify or remove its wireless facility or obtain adjacent property owner consent to mitigation measures on adjacent property if required to maintain compliance with any laws applicable to human exposure to RF emissions. T-Mobile has not done this for people standing on the balconies of my second floor next to 2447 and people standing or using ladders on my roof. I oppose approving this resolution now and recommend further study as I have described before the city reconsiders T-Mobile's request. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else online?
Liz, your 3 minutes will begin when you're unmuted.
Please go ahead.
Liz, you may need to unmute on your side.
It shows her unmuting and muting. I think she might be having audio issues.
Chair, perhaps we should move to the next caller and we can come back to Liz.
Yes, please, move to the next caller.
The next speaker removed their hand, so we just have Liz.
So we only have one left? And this is the one having technical difficulties?
Yes, this is Liz B. It looks like she's trying to mute and unmute, but we can't hear what she's saying.
Liz, we're going to give you another opportunity. Please unmute yourself.
We do have another caller, Brittany.
Let's move on then.
Brittany, your 3 minutes will begin when you are unmuted.
Hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. First of all, thank you so much for everyone who is on our block and who has spoken tonight. All is covering every question and concern my husband and I have. My name is Brittany. I'm at 707 24th Place. I am actually the sister-in-law to Jessica, the beautiful pregnant speaker that was speaking before. And I just wanted to come on here and tell you, my husband and I, Jeff, bought our home here in Hermosa, and we're building our life, planning to start a family and raise kids in this beautiful community. That's why I'm sitting here today to strongly oppose this cell tower near our neighborhood. I get that we all want good service, but putting a tower this close to homes, especially where families with young children and pregnant moms live, isn't worth the risk. Studies show that living near a cell tower can expose people, especially kids and developing babies, to higher levels of EMF and RF radiation. I know the research showed in 1996, but I propose we get another opinion. I strongly oppose this, and I know I speak on behalf of the whole neighborhood if you guys can take into consideration everything that we're saying tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers?
Liz, your 3 minutes will begin when you're unmuted. It doesn't seem like it's working for Liz.
Liz, I'm sorry, we're having technical difficulties. We're going to have to move on. I think anyone that's in the room here has wanted to speak, has spoken. I'm going to ask Mr. Gilholm, are you still with us?
I am. Want me to respond to public comment?
Yes, please.
All right. Well, a lot of heartfelt people who live directly adjacent to this facility. Let me start with the easy stuff. There is a need for this site. There is existing coverage, but there is actually a facility atop the Skechers building. The reference to Crenshaw was incorrect. Sorry about that, but there is an existing facility a couple doors down, which is going away, hence the need for the coverage. I know there was reference to that, and there was reference to need for coverage in Hermosa Beach for T-Mobile based on people's current experience, and they're correct to say that there is existing coverage, but that will be going away, hence the need for the site. I think that was the only easy part. Everyone has strong sentiment about emissions. Property values, but I think health concerns is the main concern with emissions. I know AT&T is already there, so I don't want to invalidate people's concerns that they have about a new facility, but there's an existing facility there. They're living next to a active cell site currently, with probably pretty similar emissions. What I would suggest, and then another big one is alternative analysis. Why can't they go somewhere else? Very valid question. We did try to pick the best location, least intrusive. I gave a 20-second presentation. That's one of the few things I said. There really aren't many alternatives. Due to the topography, how it drops down to the west, you can't even really go on the other side of the street. There's a church on the other side of the street, and that didn't work for RF because that emission would be blocked with the view to the west. The existing Skechers building is great, it's better, but unfortunately that's not a long-term solution for T-Mobile, out of their control. So this is the best location, and you kind of have to be on the commercial corridor on PCH looking to the west. And if it's not this building, it would be a different one with other neighbors adjacent, to residential. We don't have the leeway to go up and down the street either on PCH because you lose the objective. If you go to the south, you wouldn't get the coverage to the north because of the topography. If you go to the north on the other side of Skechers, you wouldn't get the objective to the south down PCH. So unfortunately, we're bound by a very kind of small area for which to install this to meet the coverage objectives to go primarily west, but also north and south up and down PCH. So there wasn't a lot of opportunities. We can't go to the east, which would make sense, into the commercial area away from residential. Talk about, I'm not sure where the fire station is or a police station or a park, that's probably just going to, well, it wouldn't go up and down PCH and to the west, so it wouldn't work, but it would just put you most likely adjacent to other residents. I could say the same thing about being within FCC standards, but what I would suggest Planning Commission offer to the residents, I hope T-Mobile would accept it, but we can provide a revised emissions report with specific areas, not 20 of them, but maybe 3, maybe another one directly, across the street to the north where a lot of people had concerns, across the street to the south where there was concern on the commercial building, and then maybe to the west as well, for exact locations that are determined by staff of where they want them. So staff can say, I want you an exact reading here, and we can provide a revised report citing that. Cumulative, including AT&T's emissions. We can provide both, just T-Mobile and cumulative. I think that was brought up. It's a valid concern, and I believe it is in the emissions report, but I think that's a valid request. And then I suggest we also provide post-installation readings from those specific areas as well. I know the conditions do cite that. I think it says planning director, or somebody has the authority to request rejustification of compliance. I think every year would be way too burdenous, but maybe every 5 years for a field study report. The only problem is that we would need authority from people to get on their property, which is would be outside the applicant's control. But I'm sure there could be something worded, a condition, make effort to provide, again, a post-install emissions report from specific locations, one at each building, north, south, and west. And then maybe once every 5 years, a field study subject to access allowed by, such property owners. Because we can't be bound by something we don't have control over if access is denied. I think that's, those are my thoughts. I don't want to just say it's within FCC standard and walk away from it, because I appreciate everyone's concern. But again, AT&T is already there. I mean, it's not the first one. We're not the first one there. I think visually, I don't think there is a big visual impact. We've done everything we could to mitigate it. I don't know if people who drive by right now see it jumps out as a cell site. Looking through my notes here. I did have on another note a question for staff about screening the cabinets on the rooftop, in that they are going to be smaller in scale than the existing HVAC units up there. And I think a screening element would bring more visual impact than the actual cabinets themselves. So I was curious if the plans as proposed are adequate, or if they're going to require additional screening for the cabinets, which from my perspective creates more bulk on the rooftop. Those cabinets are in the middle of the roof. To address one other concern by one of the gentlemen, why you need to go in the middle of the roof. If so, they would need to be about 20 feet above rooftop if they were all located in the middle of the roof. T-Mobile would be more than happy to do that, but I don't think that's a viable design. Because if in the middle of the roof at 5-10 feet above rooftop, the propagation will run into the roof itself and the clutter on the roof. So unfortunately, that's not really a practical design for any cell site unless it's a unique element of like a church steeple or something where there's some type of architectural feature which sticks out above everything, looking in all directions without any clutter architecture, which would create an issue for the antenna propagation. I think that's it. I know I said a lot there, and appreciate the opportunity to respond to staff too and answer any further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Gilhorn. Members of the commission, any questions, Mr. Gilhorn?
I just have one.
Commissioner Hirsch?
Thank you, Chair. Applicant, can you tell us, are there certain requirements in terms of distance away from the existing antennas on the roof that you have to be?
Are there existing requirements other than you can't have antennas be beyond 100% FCC standard? There's different antenna models. I don't think there's any regulation other than being within FCC standards for public and occupational exposure, which are different site to site.
I guess to ask a different way, on the antennas that are currently proposed to be mounted on the north and south sides of the building, closer to the residents of 24th Street, could they move east to be closer to PCH, where the existing AT&T antennas are?
Yeah, no. So we need to work around the AT&T antennas. I'm going to need 10 seconds, 15 seconds before I say something, which would be make sure that it would work. If staff, planning commission would support changing the facade on the front of the building along PCH, we could add antennas on behind the if my screen is black here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
We could relocate the antennas going north and south if we relocated them behind a facade in the middle of the building on the east side. If staff could show one of the sims from PCH, if we raise that element, that architectural element above the entry, probably to 10 feet above roof deck. Right now it's probably 4 feet. We could put the antennas there, which should work. I would need to double check that there wouldn't be interference with AT&T, but I think there would be enough separation. Code had required that you don't do, more concern of the visual impact from the scenic corridor of PCH. But if staff and planning commission and the public supported that design, we could, that would probably work, and that would get.
And just for my clarification, would that include moving the antennas
further
currently
away and also more?
Thank you.
Anything else, Commissioner?
Can you clarify, would that option include relocating the antennas on the currently suggested on the west side of the building, or just the north and south?
Just the north and south. The west, it wouldn't work there for the west.
Okay, thank you. That's it for me.
Any other questions of the applicant?
No, sir.
Commissioner McNally?
Can you please explain to me what is the difference between what you're proposing and what's currently the AT&T equipment?
I'm going to say visually nothing. We've designed it to copy, if you will, the same design as AT&T. The emissions are probably quite similar. It's the cabinets are up on the roof deck. It's very much the same design as AT&T. Of course, similar use.
My next question would be, and I'm not sure if this might be for staff, but do we know, nothing I could find told me when AT&T equipment was installed and how long it's been there?
I believe the first CUP approval was in 2001, and then there was an expansion or amendment in 2019. So there's been, at least since 2001, wireless equipment on the building.
So it's been there for 15 years? 20? Okay.
Any other questions of Mr. Gilholm? Okay, seeing none, I am closing the public hearing. I'm going to bring it back to staff for comments, debate, questions, and resolution. And normally I'd let everyone else go first, but I want to ask a question that may help facilitate some of the conversation. Johnny, in your presentation, you had on the screen a Section 8, and in that Section 8, I believe there was language which empowered the director to do some of the things that Mr. Gilholm has suggested that AT&T would be willing to agree to, which is testing at certain times and certain levels and so on. I may be missing it, but I can't find it in the revised draft resolution, and I can't find it in the original resolution, but I'm sure I saw it on the screen. So is there a new resolution that has that language?
I believe it is in condition number 8 of the draft resolution. There isn't any updated version that you should have been provided, so it should be there.
Well, my number 8 just says plans and construction shall comply with all requirements.
That's the wrong resolution. This is a different item.
What section?
This is a different item. No, this is the resolutions on your computer. This is for a different item.
All right, let me go to that resolution because I thought I looked at that resolution as well, and again, maybe I missed it.
What section, John?
It's on page 6 of 10.
6 of 10. Okay, all right. Thank you. Now that I'm on the right resolution. All right, so Section 8 does already say that if the community development director finds good cause to believe the wireless facility's non-compliance when a law is applicable to human exposure, director may require a permittee to submit a written report signed by an RF engineer under penalty of perjury and it continues on then what this has to comply with. So what the applicant has already said that they will be willing to do is what is already in our resolution that gives the director the authority to, literally at any time, not necessarily 1 year or 5 years, but at any time there is a suspect that this should be measured. This resolution gives the director the authority to do that. So I just wanted to bring that, get the commission focused on that, and now I'll take other comments and questions and observations?
I have a couple of questions to staff, if I could. There were some comments tonight, either Madam Director or Johnny, regarding the location of these units, center of the building, inside the parapet, outside the parapet. Could you define, confirm that? Because our applicant has indicated that, anything inside on the deck itself or inside the parapet would not work. It'd have to be straight line of sight or outside the parapet.
Yeah, so from my understanding from discussions and reviewing the project and discussing with the applicant, right, if you were to locate the antennas on a more central location of the subject site, right, that would result in more of a required tower to achieve the coverage goals that they're seeking and that they would obtain with what's been proposed. So then it becomes a, do you want that tower versus the facade-mounted antenna locations?
But does our current code require it to be inside versus outside?
I believe our code does have language that it requires that it to be located in the centermost location.
In a centermost location. Okay. That's all I have for right now.
Okay.
But just to clarify, I did hear the applicant say that they would be willing to put the units on the roof at PCH without a tower. Did I misunderstand that?
Perhaps the applicant can verify, but to my understanding, you would need a tower to achieve the same coverage if you were to locate it in the center due to the topography of the area.
The public hearing is technically closed, but since we have a technical question, I'm going to ask Mr. Gilholm if he would please respond to that question.
Sure, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
All right, the sectors, Sector A going to the south, Sector C going to the north, could be relocated to the center of the eastern face, if you will, of the building, behind the existing architectural facade directly above the entrance, which would need to be raised in height from approximately, right now it's about a 4-foot parapet to about a 10-foot parapet. So the word center of the building, sort of, it's not the center of the building in both locations, but it is the center as far as north and south is concerned. Yeah, it's that architectural element. If we raised that, we would just go straight up. It's probably about 3.5, 4 feet. We need to be about 10 feet. And we could put 2 of the 3 sectors back there. We could not put the sector looking west back there. That would have to stay in some other location, which has line of sight to the west.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Other questions of staff?
Not right now.
Are we ready to try a motion?
I have to discuss it.
All right, so I'm going to move staff's recommendation with the, and direct, and as part of that, direct staff to work with T-Mobile to relocate the north and south antennas to the more center of the building and away from the sides of the building. But we'll leave that to staff and Public Works to figure out the most optimal location. I think there's adequate protection down the road in real time in Section 8, and so that's my motion, which would also find an exception from CEQA.
Can I ask a question about your motion?
Yes, please.
It looks like if staff works with the applicant in order to relocate those antennas to the PCH parapet, that will potentially increase the height of that parapet beyond the height limit. So would that have to come back to us, or are you suggesting that we try and do that now?
Before I answer that, I'm going to look to our council and ask for some advice or observations on your good question.
That is a good question. So tonight, because the entire application is in front of the commission, we can go ahead and include that condition permitting the excess height if that involves the relocation of those two different antennas, those two different sites. It would not need to come back to the commission because it would already be wrapped into our conditions of approval.
Thank you. As part of my motion then, the relocated antennas, if they exceed the existing zoning height, would be allowed as long as, and I'm going to use something like, as long as they are not excessive in terms of staff size. And I mean, just to be silly for a second, we don't want a 20-foot high tower. But if it was 4 or 5 feet above the existing zoning height level, then I think that is in good faith trying to resolve a problem. So yes, I would include that in my motion, that the antennas be allowed to punctuate the existing zoning height within reason. Can I look for a second so we can have some more discussion?
I think the absence of a second probably is not unintentional.
All right. Seeing no second, my motion dies for lack of a second. Let's have some further discussion.
I would like to discuss in that situation. First of all, for the folks that are here, especially those of you on 24th Place, I appreciate that this is the first time you've been confronted with this. It's not the first time this commission, I think many of you are probably aware, just very recently, an alternative. And the frustration is not that people are coming. The frustration for us, for me, is the obvious one. If I looked at the comments, we had, 11, 12 tonight. We had a couple more that we got as emails. Implicit in all of them is a concern about radio frequencies. We can't consider that. And the notion that requesting a CEQA or something else would then make that, it's still not something that can be contested in the current situation. The issue about, for example, it should be brought to the center of the building, that's for the aesthetics of it, not related to the impact that would have presumably on radio frequencies at the building, at the margins or adjacent properties or whatever. But all of those things, again, if we leave that out then, one of the other issues that is frustrating is the language that relates to all other feasible sites. All you have to do is look at the zoning map that was included in the packet with this at the adjacent or the alternative sites. In other words, what are the alternative commercial sites? We're not a city that has an industrial zone, Cypress notwithstanding. It's not as though there are obvious locations where we are commercial properties, in extending hundreds of yards or whatever in any direction from a potential cell site. If we move this, and I'm not criticizing, but maybe we should be looking at Skechers. Skechers is exactly the same situation as this building. There are properties, residential properties, immediately adjacent to all of the Skechers buildings on the west, if not on other sites. So the frustration is here. But what I've heard tonight is the willingness of the applicant to consider an alternatives on the building, the question of which can we allow it to go over height, we have very specific stuff in our zoning code about what circumstances allow us to go over height and very specific things about the size and the kinds of things and so forth that we would allow. I don't see any reason that we would make an exception in this case to allow what would then be an aesthetic problem, is sticking a tower up on top of that. We don't allow monopoles to do this. But if we can bring some of these units up onto the roof, at the edge of the roof, they're only 4 or 5 feet high. It looks like from the scale of the renderings and so forth that we've seen, maybe it's possible there. The aesthetics of the screening, to me, having looked at that building again today, but having driven it by 1,000 times or more, I'm not sure that those, call it the grates or the screening or whatever we call it, that it jumps out aesthetically. After all, they've got it on the lower windows where you look at it and assume it's to shade the windows. It doesn't look that different to me from the rest of it, but certainly if it is possible to move these units up onto the edge of the roof or towards the center of the roof to accomplish an aesthetic goal. That's all the reason I'm doing that. It's not about radio frequencies, right? To accomplish that, I certainly think we should be willing to work with the applicant to do that. I think that the idea that, as I heard what was said tonight, they were volunteering to extend what's essentially in that revised condition to not just when it is presented, but to do it periodically. I think the willingness, and we can debate that, I think the willingness of the applicant to do that expresses their confidence that, in fact, they don't violate the FCC regulations, which is all we can ask. But I also hear the sense here that we could look at, and if the applicant is willing to look at, and I think Commissioner Hirsch and I heard it slightly differently the first time than maybe even the second time, that we should be able to, at the very minimal, look at those, not try and design it here on the fly, nor defer simply to staff to do it and put the obligation or the responsibility on them. My motion, I guess, or where I'm headed with this, I think should be obvious. I'd like to see us continue this item, request the applicant to consider alternatives on the building, recognizing the concerns that have been expressed about the aesthetics and the proximity of these units to adjacent properties. I would like to make sure that the language of that amended condition includes a periodic, what's the right word, validation, if you will, that they are still in conformance. And I think that's essentially where I am at this position, or at this point.
Thank you, Commissioner Hoffman. Other comments?
Is that an official motion, or is that an idea of an emotion in the future?
If staff could understand the motion that is implicit there, but at least as a beginning to discussion, I'm certainly willing to hear what others would say about how we might look for alternatives and so forth if we give them another month or two. We need to set a date certain, but.
Commissioner Hoffman, if I could add some additional context. We can continue tonight's hearing. I will caveat that by saying that because this is a co-located application, the applicant is entitled to an expedited shot clock, is what we call it. These are legal timeframes for review and approval of the application set by the FCC. We would need to hear this again within 20 days. That is sooner than the next Planning Commission meeting, so we could schedule a special meeting if the commission so desires in order to hear the specific application, but I wanted to make the commission aware of that restriction.
And again, I can't speak for my fellow commissioners, but I'm certainly prepared to do that. That's the only alternative.
I agree with Commissioner Hoffman's direction, and I could be available within 20 days to hear this again with the applicant taking back some of the feedback that they've heard from both the commission and the residents tonight. I think that the only thing I would try to encourage is not only focus on the two north and south antennae, but the one that's on the west, and if there's a creative solution to move all three of those closer to PCH, that's something I'd be interested in exploring.
So let me make sure I understand Commissioner Hoffman's direction. Two things. One is the physical aesthetic issues, and then secondly is strengthening the language in number 8 of the resolution, which, although the resolution right now, I think, allows the director at any time to request this study. She's not limited in terms of how often she can do this.
I guess, and again, I don't have that resolution in front of me, but my concern is that if we do it that way, somehow the obligation falls on staff or some third party, I'm not sure who that would be, that requests it, as opposed to us saying that on every 18 months or for the first 2 years or 5 years or something of operation. Again, this is part of that frustration I think we're all feeling. I'm pretty confident that this facility is being operated to the FCC standards. I'm not questioning the integrity of the applicant. Those standards, however, might change. The conditions of the operations, the technology may evolve. And so I would rather put the onus on them to conform than on us to try and enforce.
Okay. Commissioner Flaherty.
I do appreciate Dr. Hoffman's presentation about how our hands are tied on these issues. We have been through these a dozen or more times. We were back even in the early days when they first came on. So I feel very strongly about the request to have and the answer from the applicant to do due diligence on a couple more sites that he had indicated he would, especially the sites that are adjacent to the property on the northwest and southwest side. So we're talking, so that would be part of my condition too, that I'd like to add to whatever motion we have. He'd have to come through with that type of a study, whether it's at the 20-day limit or somewhere else. I also think he owes some more due diligence on the alternate site program that he said he had. He certainly is aware that in past practices, we have asked for a specific sites that they have studied prior to choosing this site. I don't see that on any of his application or information. So, and Pete is right, we have a limited number of buildings on PCH that fit this area. The third thing I want to emphasize is he says there'll be similar radio waves. That means they're doubling the radio waves, not just the same number. So that's a concern of mine. I'd like him to answer that at whatever meeting we schedule. If he can't produce that information in the 20 days that we're being told he has to have it, it's up to him to come up with an alternative date to get that information. The next, at least I'm being flippant, Madam City Attorney, on saying that, but that's up. I recognize you know the standards that he has to comply with. But I think he owes us the alternate sites and how much energy he has put into that. He owes us a new study on the immediate locations that were mentioned tonight. He owes us to read the letters that the neighbors sent. He owes us addressing the west system as well as just in the east, the north-south. North-south, again, we're addressing these because these are all line of sight instruments. That's why they're on the side of the building now. They're a line of sight. They can't be hidden by a parapet. They have to be either raised or placed on a building. We did that when we put them up there, or allowed them up there in the first place, because they stayed within the height limit. And we had more people complaining about them on the height than they were radio waves. So there are alternates to this. If he moves the units farther into the building, on the west side especially, or all of them, he has to raise them. That means we could have a height issue that we may not have control of. The ordinance may not allow us a height issue. Hence, that's why they're on the side of buildings now. So I'm very happy to second Mr. Hoffman's recommendation, if we called it a
I don't think Mr. Hoffman has all of the items that you wanted, though.
Oh, okay. Well.
So, Mr. Hoffman, Commissioner Hoffman, I'm sorry, what is your specific motion, please?
I would, if staff, I'm assuming, has captured the essence of Commissioner Flaherty's additions and mine. Again, mine were primarily with respect to the location on the building. And this notion of alternatives that Commissioner Flaherty's brought up certainly makes sense to me. And I think just the wording of the modification to make the onus to perform tests to verify that the standards are being met after, as he referred to it as post-installation, on a periodic basis I think we need to be specific. I mean, I would be comfortable with every year for the first 3 or 18 months for the first 5 or whatever would make sense. The onus to simply ensure that the compliance or conformance. And Commissioner Flaherty, the notion that they ought to be able to respond to some of the questions that have been raised in not only the comments tonight, but the letters that we received certainly makes sense.
If I may just interject a second and again underscore the time constraint that we have in terms both on the commission side as well as the applicant side. If the applicant were to agree to come back within 2 weeks, so what is a reasonable expectation in terms of redesign and additional information to be provided within a 2-week period? I think I'd encourage the commission to kind of think about that. The other reality is that the applicant, has indicated their willingness to cooperate. They do, under the law, have the ability just to run the clock out, in which case this existing installation is deemed approved. So, we need to kind of weigh all those factors in terms of really honing in on what's the most important thing we'd like to get out of the next 2 weeks.
And again, I would go back to, I guess, my original rambling, which was to me, we were sort of trying to design this on the fly here tonight. Is it at the parapet? Do we move it north? Do we move it? The location of these units on that building, given the concerns that have been raised here, aesthetic and otherwise, that ought to be something that could be done pretty quickly by anyone that understands the mechanics of that. And we could get a ruler out and figure out how high you could go or how far back you can go and still meet the height limit and so forth. If I can move it back 5 feet and take it up 2, I'm good. If I go back 20 feet and take it up 4, I'm good. If I go back 25, whoops, I'm over the height limit. We can move those units to the center of the building, away from adjacent properties as a minimum. The studies all seem to indicate a very rapid what's the right term? The drop in the amount of radioactivity or radio waves. So to me, that's the most pressing thing. And the second thing I think would be to make sure the language of that puts the onus for periodic inspections on the applicant.
Yeah, I think I'd like to support the director on this one and try and narrow, with all due respect to my esteemed commissioner, I think Commissioner Hoffman's initial focus was the right one, which is let's allow staff and the applicant to look at alternative locations, which he's already willing to do. And let's strengthen Section 8 where, to Commissioner Hoffman's point, let's put in a specific date or series of dates when there will be an actual test and a measurement, as opposed to just allowing it kind of the way it is right now, that if the director decides. But let's keep that focus. I mean, yes, he should read the emails, but if you send him down the road just to tell us why he didn't do this location or why he didn't do that location.
Our applicant only talked about the the east side. So again, I think we all can appreciate the location of these units. The most onerous ones are the west side. So we need to, if you're gonna, I mean, you can do anything you want on the PCH side of the building. It really doesn't affect the radio waves hitting the neighborhood on 24th. We need to, then if we're gonna focus on that type of language, I would say include the west side as for him to focus on. And yes, if indeed any of my other comments would prevent the time frame that he is allowed or not allowed, then yeah, move forward.
Well, the director also very subtly said, he really can just move forward on this. And so consequently, the fact that he has indicated that he's willing to look at moving things around to a better location, I think speaks to...
I didn't hear that from him. I only heard him talk specifically when Commissioner Hurst mentioned the units on the...
Well, we're just going to make that part of Commissioner Hoffman's...
Okay, so make it a general statement, if you would. Let the applicant move, based on our discussions, move whatever he can move, in particular the west side, as a position.
Well, it's
I mean,
much
we're
towards
only,
the
we're
central
talking
of the
right now,
building.
the only thing we're talking about, all the other extraneous stuff that I mentioned, we're only talking about the units themselves and their locations.
Correct.
So focus on the west.
He specifically talked about north and south. I'm not sure how much flexibility, but we're not going to solve that tonight. Let staff, working with the applicant, do as much relocation as he can.
I agree.
If he can, if he can move the west one up and back to the parapet, great. If he can't, let us give a reason. But he did indicate a flexibility on north and south side. So let's have him and staff focus on that, and let's tighten up the language with specific times when there's going to be an evaluation after the installation, and that's something I can support. So is that your motion?
That was my motion, I think.
Second.
Let me make a quick comment first. I do want to just recognize that the residents, especially those on 24th Street or 24th, and the letters we've received a lot, but it really echoes what we've heard and in prior conversations regarding this matter. And I do want to give note to the applicant for listening to public comment, listening to our discussion, and their willingness to find a solution. So I'm hopeful that we can find this solution. And I do believe they deserve time to make adjustments to the application.
All right, I think we have a motion on the floor. Do we understand the motion?
I understand the motion. Due to the 20-day timeline, do we have to incorporate a date certain in this motion?
Thank you for bringing that up, Commissioner Hirsch. Yeah, we're looking right now at the 4th, August 4th at 4:30, because the Rec and Parks Commission meets at 7.
That works for me.
Commissioner Flaherty?
Okay.
I'll be perfectly honest. Ironically, I will not be available on the 4th of August, but I trust we'll have a quorum. As long as we got a quorum, I'm perfectly comfortable
Yep.
with my fellow commissioners.
Do we need to ask the applicant if they will be ready by the 4th?
Is the applicant available on the 4th at 4:30?
Yeah, one way or another, we'll be ready with revised designs and hopefully having worked with staff on revised conditions.
Thank you, sir. All right, the 4th, 4:30. Any other comments before, or discussion on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Hirsch?
Yes.
Commissioner McNally?
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman?
Yes.
Vice Chair Flaherty?
Yes.
Chair Eisen?
Yes,
Motion carried.
thank you. Moving on to item 7B, location 606 Loma Drive. You're welcome to stay for Loma Drive. And may we have a staff report, please?
Good evening, Chair. Angelique Solis will provide this presentation for you in just a moment.
Good evening, Honorable Chair and Commissioners. Thank you for the introduction to 7B.
Now, that's when that new thing comes into play. Thank you.
So the project site is currently located at Loma Drive and 6th Street. It is developed with 4 dwelling units in the R2 and coastal zone. The proposed project would demolish the existing dwelling units and construct 3 detached residential units containing a total of 5 units, and would be an increase of 1 dwelling unit on the site. Of the 5 proposed units would be 2 accessory dwelling units, which are ministerially approved under state law and are not subject to the Planning Commission's discretionary review. This discretionary approvals before the Planning Commission are the precise development plan and the conditional use permit. These approvals are intended to ensure that the overall site design, building configuration, architectural design, and project layout are consistent with the city's development standards. Accordingly, the Commission's review is focused on the design and configuration of the site, buildings, and 3 principal units. Unit 1 is a 3-level residence featuring 5 bedrooms, 4 baths. It has a attached 2-car garage with 2 open spaces for parking. It's accessed through Loma Drive. They also have 2 decorative balconies facing Loma, an exterior landing on the 1st floor, and the 3rd floor has a deck off of the family room. Unit 2 is a 3-story residence featuring 4 bedrooms, 2 bath. It also has a attached 2-car garage with open space parking. It has 2 decks, and in the basement has an ADU. And they are accessed through 6th Street. Unit 3 has a similar layout as Unit 2, and it also is a slightly smaller square foot in the living area, but also has 2 spaces attached for parking and open space. It also has a basement ADU. Condition 13 was requesting a shared trash can enclosure where there are 5 or more units to diminish trash service, as 15 trash bins on the street increases the number of stops and impedes traffic in the area. In addition, staff is requesting a modification of the resolution for condition 22 to have sewer lateral video submitted with the number and location prior to demo permits rather than plan check submittal. So that was part of the revision that you saw on the dais for you today.
You can't read it, it's in red.
The project has been duly noticed and there were no prior comments were received. Staff is recommending that the Planning Commission adopt the revised draft resolution determining that the project is exempt from CEQA and approve the CUP and PDP for the proposed condominium development. This concludes staff's presentation. We are available for answer any questions the commissioners may have, and the applicant is present in the chambers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Solis.
Thank you.
Members of the commission, questions of staff? Okay, seeing none.
Yeah,
We have one.
I'm sorry, a couple quick questions real fast. So this property currently is 4 units and is a single property, but the 3 condominiums, would that property be divided up into 3 different lots with 3 different property tax codes that we would divide it into 3 lots? Is that correct?
So,
Okay, if she's going to answer it, I'm fine with that. Okay.
Other questions of staff? Okay, declaring the public hearing open, our applicant is, or the representative is welcome to come forward.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. I'm Stacy Strauss from Soror & Associates. Thank you for considering this application tonight. I am pleased to be here and always so impressed with the variety of topics you have before you. Tonight is
So are we.
is a little different than the one you just heard, where the one you heard was a commercial dealing with residents nearby. This is actually residential and has some commercial elements to it that we need to work through. But as you had some questions about the lot, and I want to bring to your attention that this is a request that's different than what you usually have. You usually have a request for condominium where it is a precise development plan, which is the request tonight, a use permit for condominium use, which is a request tonight, and you usually see a tentative map, which is not a request tonight. And the reason that there's not a request tonight is that this lot was previously subdivided, and the word subdivided can mean a lot consolidation or a lot split. In this case, there are 2 lots. This is actually a double lot by your standards that was previously subdivided, and a recorded final map was recorded many years ago by the applicant at the time under the Planning Commission's authority in Hermosa Beach. So we have now a double lot that is codified with a final map. And now before you, we have a new application for what will go on that lot and a request to use as condominiums. So that will allow the sale of those units to individuals, and they will have a condominium plan will get recorded with CCNRs, and we'll tell the tax assessor to reassess those units and give them individual APNs so they'll all pay their own taxes, and bring the city some significant revenue through reassessment when they sell. They are expected to sell at market rate. The likely question you have is that will the ADUs be available for individual ownership, and that they will not. They will be an element of the unit of 2 of those units. So if 3 of us were to each purchase one of the condominium units, one of the units would be equivalent to like a single-family residence. It's very much designed to be a single-family residence. That's the unit that faces Loma. 2 of the units then who face 6th Street, those each have ADUs. And those unit owners will own those ADUs. They will be residential units, and it's like having a duplex in your condominium. This site has 4 units that exist, and under the city's current zoning, we could not replace 4 units on this site given the lot size. So the team worked very hard and came up with a concept that gives livability, so 3 residential condominium units that look very much like a single-family residence, 2 of them having a very significant accessory dwelling unit to give that compensation for the 4th unit that is required. And they have sort of a bonus unit here, giving the city an additional residential unit toward meeting RHNA numbers. This is a creative approach. I do want to point out that Lane Design, who's the architect behind this project, overparked the project. So the design of it requires enclosed parking per unit, which they have, and each unit has 2 guest parking places. That's a very significant number. I'm assuming there'll be some questions by the California Coastal Commission on where are these ADUs going to park, and we might hear that they're going to park in places on site like guest parking. But they're not required by state law. The Coastal Commission doesn't necessarily mandate additional parking for them, but this project is overparked by city requirements. So that's a great bonus for the project. The project is designed to meet all other applicable requirements in Title 24 for efficiency, et cetera. The resolution before you, we are in agreement and would like to ask for your consideration and approval of, with the exception of condition number 13. I do have some concern from the property owners. There's been a lot of discussion about how to manage trash, and which all of us recognize that this is an important issue for sanitation and disease control, et cetera. And we do need to manage the trash in this case where we do have 3 units with 2 additional accessory dwelling units, which also do require their own trash cans. The city has a staff member, I believe it's Doug Kraus, who gives recommendations on how to manage trash. I did reach out to Doug directly, and he gave a suggestion. His original suggestion was that this project have a commercial bin, which looks a lot like this. This was a smaller size than what you'd see in a bigger commercial property, and this is where we see kind of a residential project kind of cross over into that commercial realm. This is not desirable for this project in many ways. Not only would it not be desirable for the design, I mean, you can imagine that if you are in a unit that's facing Loma and you want to carry your trash all the way around the corner each day and go to a commercial bin that was located somewhere else on the site to dump your trash, that would not be effective and probably wouldn't be used. In addition, though, this site, we have to remember that Loma the unit that faces Loma, those trash cans are going to be they're going to be placed on Loma Drive. And that's equivalent to like any other single family residence. And so now we're just talking about 2 condominiums that face 6th Street. Well, the unfortunate part about 6th Street, thankfully there's no street parking on 6th Street adjacent to this site. But from the property line to center of the street on on 6th Street is 20 feet. If 5 feet, 10 inches are taken up by a commercial bin, that's a very significant traffic issue for cars passing by. There's basically one traffic lane going east and west on 6th Street. So if we're placing a commercial bin there, that's going to impede traffic. So what I'd like to propose is, I contacted Athens myself and tried to come up with some ideas based on what Doug Kraus, city employee, explained to me. And through that conversation, I learned that there is a service called Cart Push Out Service. And it does cost more money, and the applicant would take a condition to meet some planning staff and community development director's approval of a way to ensure that trash is adequately provided for the service, and bins are not in the right of way when they aren't supposed to be. So that means limited time for trash pickup and service. They're not in the setback. They're not otherwise impeding fire access, but it meets the needs of the planning staff and the community development director. And they may use a service like this cart push out on their own, at their own expense. They would, how this works is they set their barrels in the common area, so again, on private property on trash day, and Athens will bring out those bins, empty the bins, and bring them back to the private property, and that is for an additional fee. So, and I just want to point out that trash bins are of varying sizes. When you have an ADU, you're likely to use the 20-gallon bins. I mean, we're not talking about massive bins for 5 units. We're talking about a variety of sizes, and we are hoping to get to something eventually like this, which would be terrific for many units where you could stack your bins. With that, though, I would like to propose alternative language for resolution condition number 13 for your consideration. And that language is, hang on, a lot of paper here. Essentially removing the language that says that we have a combined trash enclosure, like this commercial enclosure, and that we continue to do planning with the planning staff, and at the with the approval of the community development director, we can make a decision on trash. Here, I found the language. So currently the language reads centralized trash enclosure. We'd like to strike that and strike designated and start with the words. Project shall designate location for trash, storage for 5 units, shall not obstruct, et cetera, go on to not obstruct fire access, setback area to diminish trash service, public safety, aesthetics, and logistical efficiency on street frontage to the satisfaction of the community development director. So with that, I don't have anything. In addition, I do request your approval of the project. It is an exciting one that does answer the need of housing in the community while providing very significant livability. And I'm available for questions.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Commissioner Flaherty.
Yes. First of all, this is 5 pounds of building in a 2-pound bag, and I think well done by the young architect that I knew 40 years ago. So, but the question I have is, I think your design that I see in front of me has deliberately set up trash barrels on his plans, where you have a solid gate in between the Loma address and the first condo unit, where all the trash cans for units 1 and 2 would have to walk up the stairs and out to Loma, because there's no gate in between. And that would actually have us, if you're suggesting a service doing that, it would work. And the reason why I say that is my experience with large trash containers, such as the 2-yard or 3-yard show, are a disaster. No one maintains them, and so on and so forth. So individual responsibility has a value in the operations of all things trash. This is a multi-million-dollar project, and we're talking about trash cans. So I also encourage the staff to look at the egress and ingress of where the existing trash cans are located in his plans. It would force 2 of the 3 units, or 3 out of the 5 units, to go on Loma, and the other 2 to go out on 6th Street. This, again, with a very narrow street and a sidewalk that's going to be in place eventually, a 5-foot wide sidewalk, the 30-gallon containers work better out there, although no trash has ever been picked up on 6th Street on a hillside that's about a 9 or 10 degree slope off a trash trail. So I would encourage you to think about that and where those cans, your suggestion to have a valet-type trash pickup has a real value. You'd have to come in back on the north side of all the units, pick up the cans, take them out to Loma, which would be a better pickup spot on a flat surface, even though there is a gate that allows operations like that. I never thought I'd be talking about trash cans and gates and things, but I think you raise a legitimate question here, and I would encourage you to continue the dialogue with the director. But when a large trash, I'll say this out front, a large trash container is a disaster for a small unit like this. It would be placed in an exterior location next to the biggest unit up on top. That's where they could grip it and grab it and take it away, and would be in there close to their driveway area looking out their patio. So it'd be a disaster. There's not enough room to put one of those containers behind the building or even in the front yard. That would, again, I encourage you, I like what you had to say. I think you should continue that dialogue with the department, especially how you've set up the egress and ingress through all these units.
Thank you.
Commissioner Flaherty, a question of clarification. So on the plans, we have trash cans unit 2, ADU, and so on. We have a fence gate here. It says fence gate.
Right.
But are you saying that these could not be taken out to 6th Street because of the grade of the street?
Well, I'm just saying it would be a difficult collection process off of 6th Street with a truck handling 30-gallon containers at an 8 or 9 degree angle, and you'd be best serviced if they were placed during collection day up on Loma. It would then clog this area up, there's no doubt about it. But I think the way trash is picked up now by a machine, not a man or woman, picking up trash, they need this, a side loader is what they use. They don't use a hand dump in the back anymore, it's a side loader.
Have you reviewed these plans with Athens?
We have not reviewed the plans with Athens. We just discussed options that are available for a relatively large project. I mean, in this city, this is a large project. This is 3 units. And then it has these 2 accessory units,
There's
which
5
would,
separate trash. Each one's going to get 3 trash cans.
correct.
15 cans.
Yeah, that's right.
So you, however you work it out, whether you, again, with a mechanical arm, maybe 6th Street will work and it'll be more effective, but if you have a service, see, if individual owners are taking their trash out and placing it out there, that's different from a service who has to pick up the 15 cans and at different times. They're different materials and so on and so forth. But anyhow.
So do I hear you saying that condition 13 is going to be a trash plan submitted to the Director of Planning subject to her approval? Is that?
Yes, absolutely.
We would accept that. And even a condition that says trash cans are not to be placed on the street, that they're to be private service, access from private property.
Other questions of Ms. Strauss?
Just to build on the trash can conversation. I agree with my fellow commissioners and the applicant in terms of ownership and cleanliness of those large dumpsters. And if there's a way to make the kind of individual trash cans work, that seems like it fits better within the neighborhood and for the project. I just want to flag a couple things. It looks to me like where the trash cans are currently proposed is up or downstairs. So I think the condition probably meets the suggested revision to that condition probably would satisfy that. But if you are going to have some type of service, that service should be comfortable taking those trash cans up or downstairs, or I think the plan needs to be modified. So that's my first comment. My second question, and I'm curious how my fellow commissioners feel about this, just throwing it out there, is there openness, if we're worried about there being 15 trash cans on the street for trash pickup day, to combine the ADU and the condo within that detached building to share trash cans? Or is that a big no-no?
I'm not aware of the requirements for whether they can or cannot. If they can, and that was something that was allowable, they could do something like that.
I could make one more statement. Each one of these trash cans are picked up by different vehicles. So if you're having a service, that service would only be, the service would have to be trash on one service, the next service would be the recycle, and the next service would be green. So I suspect you could get away with 5 cans at a crack if you did it like that. Unless the service is one time, one guy brings them all out and waits for 3 different trucks, because that's what happens in your neighborhood now. You have all your cans out, 3 different trucks come pick it up. You might think about that in the service, would it require, because 15 cans out on Loma would look pretty bad, and would block driveway. Or it would block sidewalks. So I think the way you work it out with the director is to come up with a service plan and figure out how that service plan works. I mean, that's my opinion.
My second question is just with regards to the building height, and I'm wondering if this is like an optical illusion. I got to get back to the elevation, but because the points of the elevation show that the building heights are at the limit. Okay, so I'm looking at at the plans, page 14, which is sheet A 2.01 on the top left. The points look like the building is at the max building height, but the green line that shows the max building height is lower than that building. So I just want to raise that and make sure that the building is within compliance of the height limit.
Good eye.
Yeah, you don't want what you say.
Okay, I think I'm looking at the same sheet you are, which is
Yeah.
A. Yeah.
A, the 3,000 square foot building, the one on the top left. You see the green line, and you see that the building height is above the green line, but the green line says it's the maximum allowable height, but then the points.
So it's difficult to get a two-dimensional figure to on paper, which is really representing a three-dimensional. I'm not technical in any way. I'm not an architect, and I can't draw the plans. But I think if you look immediately below that, you'll see that particular project, that particular building is depicted significantly below the interpolated grade line.
A202?
Yes. A201.
8.201.
Yeah, that's what you're looking at, right?
Right. So so if you look at this particular structure is depicted here, and you can see the interpolated grade line, and it's significantly below. So I think what you're seeing here is a three-dimensional figure trying to meet two-dimensional quality. So the other place that's really helpful to look on the plans is the cover sheet, which I think it's on this one, the cover sheet, which will have the critical point analysis. And I would leave to the planner who did that review to discuss how that review was done. But the critical point analysis, let's see, I just took mine apart, should be on the cover sheet.
I mean, I don't need you to convince me. I think as long as we make the record state that the building, we're not approving an increase in building height here, that's good. Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions.
Any other questions of the applicant?
The grade on that lot slopes both east, west, north, south. Tell me about how the driveway approaches on 6th Street were approached, and I assume that the building officials have already reviewed that, but give me a hint how they look as you enter your driveway at two different angles and into a flat base of an indoor garage.
So Hermosa Beach is a hilly city. Mm-hmm. And you point out these are design challenges for these architects, but they meet the standards. They will not exceed the 12% of approach. And we know the point of having a 12% driveway approach so that people are likely to park in their garages and not scrape up the bottom of their car. So that approach is maintained, and then they will have adequate in front of their garage for guest parking and then enter their garage. So it's really about that slope, the driveway slope, which is on private property and not to exceed 12% grade change.
Could you talk about the pumps down in the lower areas?
Yes, are these pumps for low impact development or
well, there's
for
two
water?
different pumps you're going to have, I assume,
Okay.
sewer and stormwater.
Yeah. So again, these are site challenges, hilly in Hermosa Beach. We're in the coastal zone as well. And every project that exceeds building 400 square feet of new livable area or remodeling a certain amount must comply with low impact development. That means when water is entering your property, it is properly cleaned before giving back to the city. So this particular project is using a collection tank so that when stormwater or other surface waters enter the property, they go into a collection tank, are cleaned, and then will be pumped back out after cleaning and back out to the city. And then for sewer, that's just going to be a standard ejector that will be necessary to get to the main.
Have you discussed anything about a backup generator for the project?
A backup generator for power for the home?
For the sewer pump?
So all pumps will have two motors. All pumps always have a backup.
Backup pump or backup power?
Backup power.
Okay. There'll be a generator on site, and that when the power goes out, and your sewer pump doesn't work.
I see what you're saying.
It's battery.
You're done.
I see what you're saying.
Battery
Okay.
backup. Battery backup.
Is battery?
A battery backup, okay. I'm going to mention this to the design team to ensure that they consider that.
Okay, any further questions of the
Trash
applicant?
and sewer. What the heck? Who would have thought?
Well, these are cities, so gotta think about these things.
Thank you.
Commissioner McNally?
Yeah, Stacy. I have just a question, just out of curiosity. In units number 2 and units number 3, we do have the ADUs in the back, and they've got closet space, they've got linen, they've got the mini split HVAC system and the whole thing. But there's 2 bedrooms in each, and I don't know how you'd have a residential without some type of kitchen or a kitchenette or something.
Oh, they're required to have kitchen facilities for an ADU.
Next floor.
Downstairs.
The other floor.
Oh, there's a down under. I'm sorry, I missed that. Hold on a second.
That's a good question. Livability.
Thank you. Okay. Oh, problem solved.
So I don't know that it's anyone's interest in having the ADUs, but it is a requirement of the law that the city require like for like number of units to be replaced. But the California Coastal Commission has taken that a step further, and they review whether, apparently under the Coastal Act, whether housing is being adequately replaced in the coastal zone. Whether that is a standard that they have purview over, I do not know, but they have imposed that. And so these ADUs, one of them is mandatory. We call it an accessory dwelling unit so that we can have that unit, but it is a functioning unit. It is meant to be housing, and it is meant to replace one of the 4 units that is there. The 5th is a bonus.
Thank you.
All right, this is a public hearing. I see no one in chambers. Do we have anyone online?
There are no members of the public wishing to speak online at this time.
Do you have any closing comments?
I do not. I do appreciate the questions. I think these are thoughtful and will help the design of the project. I appreciate your listening to our requests tonight. This is a slightly unusual project, and it comes with challenges.
Thank you very much. Public hearing is closed. Fellow commissioners, what is your pleasure?
Well, I'll start. The only thing that was surprising is that Commissioner Flaherty missed the opportunity to talk about sewer mains and went straight to trash. But in serious note on the trash issue, living in the vicinity in a similar situation where there's apartment buildings and condos, people work this out. Let's be honest. First of all, the green units, nobody in these kind of units are going to use them because there's no landscaping, there's minimal trash, nobody uses them. I'm fully confident that the plan that's here will work. And secondly, the guys from Athens, bless their hearts, they come and get the trash cans. If somebody's not home, they'll climb down between 2 condos and pull them out. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not suggesting how this should be resolved, but this is one of those inevitable things that is resolved. And yeah, it looks like heck in Sunset on the 2nd Street there behind Loma, when everybody, especially the apartment units, bring out, yeah, we've all got 20 trash cans out there in front of the houses, but I'm sure that can be resolved. So I'm comfortable with that. I think the other issues that have been addressed, the kind of frustration I felt about some of the things we've talked about earlier today are shared here with the mandates in terms of what has to be developed here versus what might be the desire of the property owners. But I would approve the project with the covenants that have been addressed in terms of the trash and dealing with that issue. So I'm comfortable with the project and will approve it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments?
I'd just like to say I also concur with Dr. Hoffman on the overall view of this project. It really brought the city up to a lot on this property that has been, there's encroachments that are going to be cured, there's sidewalks that are going to be put in, there's new buildings going to put in, the parking is overparked, all pluses. My original thought was, oh my goodness, as I said, 5 pounds of building in a 2-pound bag, but it isn't. It literally has complied with a lot and given a lot back with the ADU numbers that we have to reach. I'm very happy. I've known who the property owner and for many, many, many years, and this is going to be a good addition to the neighborhood. So I fully support it, and thank you for going into the weeds or the trash for us. Thank you.
Commissioner Hirsch or McNally?
No further comment. I intend to support it.
Looks good. I'll take a motion and a second, please.
Move to approve the staff recommendation with the additions of amendments as noted.
Second.
Probably needing no further discussion, or is there any discussion?
Just for clarification, move staff recommendations with the modification for the trash enclosure, item number 13. Right.
And also the sewer. There's a
The amendment that was
amendment
on
to the sewer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Call for the question, please.
Commissioner Hirsch?
Yes.
Commissioner McNally?
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman?
Yes.
Vice Chair Flaherty?
Yes.
Chair Eisen?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Item 7C, location 435 8th Street. Staff report, please.
Commissioner, Chair, I have to recuse myself. This is in close proximity to our residents.
Thank you, Commissioner Hoffman.
And Angelique Solis will provide that presentation as soon as Mr. Hoffman leaves the room.
Good evening again. Thank you for that introduction to item 7C. The commissioners approved a parking plan and a variance in May of 2024. The applicant has been unable to move forward with the project and is requesting a time extension. This is the existing site. It is in the R3 zone and also in the coastal zone. The applicant sent a letter prior to the expiration of the permit that was set to expire May 21st, 2026, and staff directed the applicant to submit a formal application for the approval of the Planning Commission. The project was duly noticed, and there were no comments that we received. Staff is recommending the Planning Commission adopt the draft resolution, determine that the project is exempt from CEQA, and approve a 2-year time extension for the previously approved parking plan and variance. This concludes staff's presentation. If you have any further questions, we are available for any comments, and the applicant is also available for questions.
Okay, first of all, thank you for your presentation. Questions of staff, please.
I do. The letter that we received directed to the planning manager indicates 2 things. One, and I quote, "And there have been no substantial changes to design or scope." Were there any changes?
No
None?
changes.
Okay. And the other statement, they're asking for a 1-year, otherwise determined appropriate. Could you tell me why you suggested 2?
Sure. Currently, their project is in the Coastal Commission, so we believe that a 2-year time extension would be more appropriate And since you guys have the option to give them that 2-year time extension, we believe it'd be more beneficial for them to have the 2 years versus the 1 year.
Perfect. I'll ask the applicant the other questions. Thank you.
Any other questions of staff? All right, this is a public hearing. A public hearing is open. Would the applicant please come forward?
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. I'm Stacy Strauss from Soror and Associates on behalf of the applicant, requesting your approval of a time extension for a previously approved application for a variance and parking plan. I think, Chair, you were here at the time of the approval, and it was a lengthy conversation and some very significant justification for why this project was appropriately granted those approvals. Tonight, we're just here to ask for an extension of time, not to discuss the merits of whether that was appropriately granted or not. So again, we're here to ask for that extension. I think 2 years is appropriate. That's a standard for most decisions in this city. And even if it turns out to be longer than is needed, it just gives them that safeguard. This is a young family who, when they were before you last, had a child in a 1-bedroom home, now has 2 children and has since had to relocate to a rental to accommodate their growing family, but would like to move back to their property with this new development. So if you'll grant them that extension, they can continue to make arrangements, financial and otherwise, to do that.
Thank you. Questions of the applicant?
As I drove by tonight, there was a for sale sign on the property. Could you tell me about that?
Yes, the question is, why is there a for sale sign on the property? And the applicant is just exploring all options. Again, this is a very unusual site in the R3 zone. You saw the lot size is extremely small. They are creative. Josh Tully Architecture was very creative in trying to get something on the site. So they're just exploring all options related to possibly selling it and finding another location or developing this themselves.
Any other questions of the applicant? Okay, public hearing. I see no one in chambers. Is there anyone online?
There are no members of the public wishing to speak at this time.
Thank you. All right, I close the public hearing. Bring it back to the commission. What is your pleasure?
Move staff recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I just have a curiosity question. I'm going to support this, but I'm still curious. So if they are successful in selling the property, then the new owner, I guess, has a timeline and a set of plans. And if they want to substantially change the plans, they would need to come back to us. But if they want to build what we approved several years ago, then they can go ahead and do that and not have to come back and have a public hearing and so on.
That is correct. The entitlements follow the property, not the property owner. So the property will continue to be entitled.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, I'll take a motion and a second, please. Oh, I'm sorry, did you already make one? We already have one. Thank you. Call the question.
Commissioner Hirsch?
Yes.
Commissioner McNally?
Yes.
Vice Chair Flaherty?
Yes.
Chair Eisen?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. If someone would please go get Commissioner Hoffman, and we will move on to community development. Oh, he must have heard us.
He's psychic.
Item 8, Community Development Director Report.
Good evening, Commissioners. I don't have a lengthy report. I want to thank you all for your accommodation on the item number 1 this evening and willingness to meet in just a couple of weeks in order to take another stab at that design of that facility. Also, speaking of design, wanted to acknowledge the fact that we continue to tinker a bit with the format of our staff reports. So consistent with the city clerk's evolution of staff reports for the city council. So at the very top, you'll notice that we are abbreviating the actions that are being requested of the Planning Commission. For example, in this last one that we just did, conduct a public hearing, determine the exemption from CEQA, and adopt a resolution by title. In a pinch, if you forget where you are in the case, you can always look there and know what the recommended actions are. In addition, we're following procedures, again, set up by the city clerk's office in terms of how we're bundling and uploading our public comments that are received between the time that the public notice or the agenda is released and the day of the hearing. So you might have noticed that happened today. And again, we're just trying to consistently apply the city clerk's practices as we're kind of getting up to speed with our new eScribe digital data management system.
Commissioner Hoffman. I'm sorry, Flaherty.
Madam Director, I did find it difficult to read 14 pages of letters, even though there's like 8 letters there, within a few hours from when we got it bundled. Is there a restriction or a time frame where you won't accept a letter from the public? Reading it 2 hours before the meeting is difficult.
So I guess the way I would think about it, right, is the public hearing takes place when you're convened, right? Whether it's at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, and all of that information is presented for the first time at the hearing, right? Whether it's in writing or virtual or in person. Okay. And you're kind of looking at all of that as you're making your decision that evening. So the practice of aggregating all of the comments and then releasing them at one time is just a common standard practice. Now, I do recognize that this commission does meet. We're currently following the procedure that the city clerk follows for the council, which starts at 6. Because you do start at 5, we could probably scooch it up another hour so that you had a 4-hour block, similar to what the what the city council does, and that would harmonize the practice with the time that you meet. Happy to do that for next month.
So just to make sure that I understand, we don't want to be any different than our senior brother. Right. So the city council on a Tuesday meeting at 6, let's say that they have some very controversial topic. Now, they've had the actual staff write-up and recommendation the prior Thursday, but they also, any public comment that comes in between that prior Thursday and Tuesday at 3 p.m., they don't get anything until 4?
At 2, right?
Yeah, so the public comment closes 3 hours before the meeting. So for city council, their public comment would close at 3 p.m. and then staff would compile all of the emailed comments. So if it is a controversial item, sometimes if we receive a lot of emailed comments, that's what could take a little bit to compile all of those. But they're sent over to council as soon as possible.
So they're not receiving anything on Monday?
No. They receive day of.
Just want the same thing they have. That's all I want. We used to get them kind of as they flowed in. We got some on Friday and some on Monday morning. And all right, well, if it's good enough for them, I guess we'll have to live with it. Okay, what else, please?
That's all I've got this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Number 9, Planning Commission comments.
My only comment was I've been part of this RFC issues for quite a long time, but this is the first time I heard about a 20-day, and I think it all keyed around being a joint, cohabitation there.
That's exactly right. And it's a 90-day shot clock that we have for co-location applications. So once it's deemed complete, we have 90 days in its entirety to get it through. And given when we've met tonight, it's day 69. We really, only have another 25 days, total in order to make a decision, or it's deemed complete. That's how it works.
Thank you, then, for allowing me to vent about some of those issues. But the bottom line is, I think this presentation, as skillful as that company is, was less adequate than some of the other ones that we've heard this time, especially in addressing, have you read the letters from the neighbors? I mean, those are important key elements for me, anyhow, on how to address the issue. And I do recognize how our hands are not tied, but limited to what we can do. So I appreciate that, but it was a surprise. 20 days threw me off.
Any other planning commissioner comments?
No.
Okay, future agenda items. Tentative agenda. Okay, August 18th. Monument sign at Parks and Rec Building, okay. Zoning code. All right, up and pending. Okay. Rotation of chair and vice chair. So is that going to happen in August, or is that just noticing that it's going to happen in September? What's the current calendar?
Yeah, that is September.
It is September, all right. So August is just giving the formal notice that the rotation happens. All right, I will take a motion in a second to receive and file, please.
So moved. Second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Hirsch?
Yes.
Commissioner McNally?
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman?
Yes.
Vice Chair Flaherty?
Yes.
Chair Eisen?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. All right. I'll take a motion to adjourn. So be it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, and thanks for 7A was a good hearing to work through. I think we tried to listen and try and make some accommodations. So, thank you, everyone.
Love is a lesson that doesn't end. It knows no conditions, so you better buckle in. Love keeps you on your toes. It never stops, only grows. Love isn't easy, it's a commitment, especially when they're being their most resistant. Love is finding the right seat so you can take a breath. But remember, love isn't lax, it always double checks. Check that your kids are in the right seat at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed.